Good afternoon, everybody. It's 5:30, and welcome to the Committee of Adjustment meeting this is May 2nd. First off, the municipality of Strathroy-Caradoc acknowledges that it is located on Treaty 21 territory. We are thankful to the generations of people who've taken care of this land, including the Chippewas of the First Thames First Nation, the Munsee Delaware First Nation, and the Oneida Nation of the Thames. Okay, first I have a roll call for Eva.
Thank you, Chair. My name is Eva Baker. I'm the Acting Secretary Treasurer for the Committee of Adjustment. I'll be hosting the meeting and managing participants. Committee members joining us this evening include Member Kennis, Member Kumar, Member Vian, Member Pelkman, Member McGuire, Member Derbyshire, and Member Terpstra, who is also our Chair. Municipal staff in attendance this evening are Jennifer Huff, Director of Building and Planning, Aaron Besch, Planner with the County of Middlesex, and Jennifer Pereira from the Legal and Legislative Services team. I would like to acknowledge at this time we have 10 individuals in attendance in person this evening and 1 participant joining us virtually. Tonight we have 4 applications to be heard by the committee. The chair will introduce each application and provide the applicant and agent an opportunity to speak to the application. The planner will follow with their report. The public will then be invited to make comments or ask questions about the application. The chair will then call upon the committee and ask questions and make comments before the chair calls for a vote on the application. Once a decision is made, there's a 20-day appeal period from the date of decision for minor variances and 20 days from the date of notice of decision for consents. If anyone wishes to be notified of the decision, you can make a request today or make a written request following this meeting. For our virtual participants, please ensure your name is visible on your Zoom video, and we ask that you keep yourself muted until it is your turn to speak.
Okay, thank you, Eva. First off, I need a motion to add the fee waiver request that was in our correspondence to item 5.1 and accepting correspondence as information for items 5.2 and 5.4 and the approval of the agenda. Being Steve, supported by Frank, all in favor, and that carries. Also, so is there any declaration of pecuniary interest by any of the committee members? Seeing none, we're moving on. The reading and correction or approval of minutes. You've all seen the minutes for our last meeting, which was April the 4th. And I'm looking for a recommendation from the committee to approve them as written. Dale, supported by Frank, all in favor? And that carries. Thank you, sirs. So today we have submissions for consideration. Our first one is for 5.1, which is 2601 Queen Street, Mount Bridges. This is a fee waiver request. And Aaron, I'll go first to you for your report.
Actually, Chair, if committee is acceptable to myself presenting the report.
Absolutely, thank you.
Thank you. So to the committee, to provide some background on this application, this is in regards to an infill severance that was submitted in 2022 for a property in Mount Bridges. And at the time, it was approved subject to a number of conditions, those conditions being a common condition that we have for all infill developments, that both the severed and the retained lot be serviced independently prior to finalization of the severance. And so while we were consulting with the applicant on the application, we were finalizing construction plans of Queen Street, and of course knowing that Queen Street was going to be serviced, that provided an opportunity for the severance, and knowing that the work was being done, it seemed like, knowing that the application was going to come in, that we would put the stub in Queen Street reflecting the application that at the time that the stub was submitted, we had received the application. And so part of the application, the conditions, in order to satisfy those, they needed to pay for the connection to the new stub. And of course, at the time, there was some discussion in council about what the cost of that service connection was going to be. And so for a number of months, the applicant held off on pursuing finalization of the severance until that decision was made by council. And unfortunately, while the applicant was waiting for that decision, they also didn't pursue any of the other conditions. I think with the thinking that if there was a decision to abandon the application, they didn't want to incur any other additional costs. However, as council will recall, that there was a more recent decision on January 22nd of 2024, clarifying, back in January 22nd, 2024, the applicant did finally decide to pay for the connection fee and then pursued the rest of the conditions of the severance. However, one of those conditions ended up being that one of the services that needed to be independently provided to the severance lot was hydro, and of course, disconnecting and installing a new hydro connection did take time, and unfortunately it meant that the applicant didn't have time to complete that, so the severance has lapsed. So at this point in time, the severance has lapsed, except all of the conditions are now fulfilled, and so in order to complete the severance application actually needs to be resubmitted. And so knowing that, and knowing that there would be a requirement for a fee with that new severance application, the applicant has submitted a request for a fee waiver. Under our new process for evaluating waivers of these, for a request for a full waiver, our process is that goes still to the committee for a decision. I will say that the cost of the application is $1,800. So that's the amount that would be waived if council approved it. And of course, once there's a decision on this, then the applicant will decide whether or not to pursue the application or not, because a new one has not been made. And as well, I just want to also say that Jake DeRitter, our Senior Development Coordinator, he's the person that we have on staff that works with all of the applicants after they get their approval and walk them through the next steps of the process, how to satisfy the conditions. So he's been working with the applicant over this time, trying to get her to this point now. And so I just want to thank him for all of the work that he's done on this report, as well as helping the applicant through the process. So I'm happy to answer any questions, but really at this point I wanted to provide the information for the committee in order for the committee to make a decision on whether or not to approve or deny that fee waiver request.
Okay, thank you, Jen. Is there anyone from the audience in regard to this particular one? No? Seeing none. Any questions from the committee? Brent.
So at this point, the applicant is still wanting to pursue the severance. It's just a question of the time has expired on the old consent, and if they reapply again, there might be much work that has to be done on our end to finish this off.
Through the chair, so yes, the applicant is still interested in pursuing it, and no, all of the conditions essentially have been satisfied except for the last, the legal transfers and things that would need to be provided. So staff would still need to do a report, present it to committee technically to get that approval again, but in terms of additional work to satisfy conditions, most of them have been completed.
Okay, Steve?
I'm perfectly fine with waiving the fee. There's been so much humming and hawing and change of directions on Queen Street that if I was in their shoes, I probably would have held off too. So I hate to see us charge them twice for the same application.
Any other questions, concerns from committee? So then, I'm looking for Steve, I guess.
Yeah, I'll make the motion that we approve the fee waiver request.
Is there a supporter for that? Frank supports that. And all in favor? Any against? No, so that passes. Okay, so then we're moving on to 5.2, which is an application for minor variance A6 2024 at 75 Dune Street. I hope I said that right. I'm never sure about the name of that street. Dune Street, Strathroy. Is there someone representing that property here in the audience today? Yes, sir, and your name?
Brad Thody,
And you are the owner or?
part owner.
Part
Father
owner?
Carrie Thody as well. Carrie, yeah.
Okay. Okay, anyone else for that property in the audience? No? Okay, if you don't mind, I'll have Aaron do a report first, and then if you have something to add, we'll certainly let you do that.
Thank you, Chair. So the next application before the committee this evening is for 75 Dune Street. Again, I'm assuming that's how it's pronounced. The application seeks relief from section 6.32 of the zoning bylaw to permit a lot frontage of 7.3 meters per townhouse unit, whereas the zoning bylaw requires a minimum of 8 meters in the R2 zone. And this application would facilitate the construction of 4 townhouse units. So the property is located at the terminus of Dune Street. The road itself actually does not even reach the property. So there is a number of items that the landowner is required to undertake in order to facilitate this construction, including the extension of Dune Street itself, as well as, I believe, the sanitary connection as well. The property is currently vacant. The townhouse units are proposed to be 4-street-oriented townhouse rental units. They are accessed via 2 shared driveways. Each of the units would have an individual garage as well. So the application is really intended to address the existing frontage. So in our zoning bylaw in the R2 zone, each of the units are required to have a specific frontage. Often it's to ensure that if there is a severance that comes forward in the future, that each unit has a sufficient width to accommodate the unit. In this case, they are required to have a frontage of 8 meters per unit. So for 4 units, that would be 32 meters. However, the lot existing as it is has a frontage of 29 meters. So of course, we can't quite meet that total, but the applicant has proposed a frontage of 7.3 meters instead of the 8. Which would, it still allows the townhouse units to meet all other setbacks and all other provisions of the R2 zone, including lot coverage. We circulated the application as per the requirements under the Planning Act. I did receive 1 comment from the public. It was from the neighbor at 77 Dune Street. They have 2 large trees in the rear of their lot. As it does share a property line with the 75 Dune Street, there is a concern that any construction on the property may impact the root structure of these 2 trees. I provided the applicant with the landowner contact information. He has reached out to the neighbor and they have actually had a discussion. And it's my understanding that the applicant will take every precaution to protect the root structure. In terms of construction of the property, it will require 4 feet of excavation and a slab. And as I said, he will do everything he can to protect that root structure. I also received a comment from the Senior Development Coordinator who has been working with the applicant in terms of stormwater management on the property. And they have, I think they've reached a point where the Senior Development Coordinator is comfortable saying that they've addressed any sort of drainage or water concerns on the property. My analysis of the 4 tests really hinged on the fact that the property can accommodate the 4 units meeting all of the setback requirements. It can satisfy our parking requirements as well. So with the insurance that stormwater amenity space, sufficient distance around the structure, they have all been met. So I am of the opinion that they have met the 4 tests. So my recommendation this evening on the application is approval. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Erin. I do want to give a last call if there's any members for this property, either here or online.
There's a couple phone numbers on joining us virtually. If they're participating for this application, then we'll just maybe wait a moment, see if they unmute.
And if not, I'll go to the folks that are here in the audience now, if you want to make any comments regarding this property.
I believe Erin's pretty much covered everything that she needs to, so I
Okay.
don't really have anything to say.
Good, excellent. Any questions from the committee members? Any comments? And we've got nothing online, so then I'm going to ask for a motion for this property. Frank makes a motion
To approve.
to approve, supported by Mike. All in favor? And that passes. Thank you.
From today, the 20-day appeal period will begin. During this time, either the applicant or prescribed public body can appeal the decision made by the committee by making an application to the Ontario Land Tribunal. If no appeal has been made following the 20 days, the minor variance declaration will be issued.
Okay, then moving on to 5.3, it's an application for minor variance A7-2024 for 1940 Elizabeth Street in Melbourne. Property owners are Johan Fair, Weeb, and Natalie Weems. Is anyone in the audience for that property? No, seeing none. Then Erin, I'll go to your report. Anyone online on that one?
Yeah, there's a couple phone numbers, so I know that applicant was joining
Okay,
by phone, so when the time's right, they can.
yep, sure. Okay, so Erin, we'll go to you for your report.
Thank you, Chair. So the next application before the committee this evening is for 1940 Elizabeth Street in Melbourne. The purpose of this application is to provide relief from section 4.65A of the zoning bylaw to permit a secondary suite that is 101 square meters in size, which is 77% of the gross floor area of the primary dwelling unit, whereas the bylaw restricts secondary suites to 80% of the gross floor area to a maximum of 75 square meters. So as the secondary suite does meet or it is under the 80%, the variance that we're looking for is actually from the size cap of 75 square meters to 101 square meters. The secondary suite would be located in the lower level of the existing single detached dwelling. The property or the dwelling itself was constructed, I believe it was completed last year. The primary level has a gross floor area of approximately 131 square meters with a garage that is 41 square meters in size. The property is connected to municipal water provided by Southwest Middlesex, but it does have private sanitary services, which was a new septic system at the rear of the property, and that was to accommodate the new dwelling. So when the dwelling was constructed, the building plans took into consideration that there was a secondary kitchen in the basement, there is a secondary laundry, bathroom, and so all of those fixtures have already been included as part of the septic system. So there is no sort of concern that the septic would not be able to accommodate the secondary suite. The secondary suite would be accessible via a stairwell in the garage, and the primary suite would be accessed via the front door. So each unit would have a separate entrance, and through the building permit process, they are also required to ensure that there's adequate fire separation, which they have been also working on. The application was circulated as per the requirements of the Planning Act. I did not receive any comments either from agencies, our internal departments, or outside public. My analysis of the 4 tests, again, it was an assurance that the property could accommodate the additional parking requirement of a secondary suite, which it does. as well as the additional capacity within the septic system, which our chief building official has confirmed that it does as well. And if there's any issues with that, that would also be addressed through the building permit process. So my recommendation this evening on the application is approval. Thank you.
Thank you, Erin. Any comments from our folks online? Not hearing any. Any comments from the committee members? None, then I'm looking for a motion for the approval. Steve, supported by Brian, all in favor? And that carries, thank you.
From today, the 20-day appeal period will begin. During this time, either the applicant or prescribed public body can appeal the decision made by the committee by making application to the Ontario Land Tribunal. If no appeals are made following the 20 days, the minor variance declaration will be issued.
Okay, so then we're moving on to 5.4. It's an application for minor variance A8 2024 at 294 Salisbury Street in Strathroy. The owner is the numbered company, and Brandon Goldry. Anyone here today for that property in the audience? Yes?
We're here to find out what's going on.
Okay, neighbors of the property? Okay.
In the property, we're in the building.
Oh, in the building, okay, good, okay. And agents are here, is that right? In the building, yes, okay. And anyone online for that one? No? No, okay. So, Erin, I'd like you to give your report. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. So this next application is for 294 Salisbury Street in Strathroy. The purpose of the application is to seek relief from section 4.23120A of the zoning bylaw to permit a residential parking rate of 1 parking space per dwelling unit, whereas the bylaw requires 1.25 parking spaces per apartment dwelling unit. This application also seeks relief from section 4.2313B to permit 2 visitor parking spaces, whereas 7 are required for properties containing more than 10 residential dwelling units. So this application would facilitate construction of 2 additional units within an existing apartment building for a total of 42 units. The property itself is approximately 1.44 acres in size. It is located on the south side of Salisbury Street between Carey Street and Victoria Street. The property contains a 3-story, 40-unit apartment building with landscaped area and surface parking with 44 vehicular parking spaces. The lands are connected to full municipal services, and access is via a single driveway off of Salisbury. So the applicant is proposing residential intensification within the existing structure. I believe that there is unused space in the building, or they're converting some space that already exists to accommodate 2 additional residential dwelling units. There's no exterior modifications to the building, and there's no changes to the layout of the site either. The property does contain 44 vehicular spaces, as well as including 2 visitor spaces. Again, the parking ratios in our zoning bylaws speak to a per dwelling unit, 1.25 per dwelling unit, and then the visitor spaces is also 0.15 stalls per unit. So currently, the parking is deficient under our existing zoning bylaw. However, the structure was constructed prior to the establishment of our current bylaw, therefore it is a legal non-conforming or legal non-complying situation. So it doesn't require any changes until they are coming forward to make a change to what's existing on the property. Therefore, the addition of 2 units, we do have to evaluate the parking as a whole, rather than just what would be the requirements of these 2 units. So under the existing parking units, I believe it was, I don't know if I included in here. Anyway, so in support of the minor variance application, the the applicant's consultant has provided a planning justification brief, as well as an existing conditions plan, which is attached to my report. Within the brief, the applicant's agent advised that due to the physical constraints of the property and the desire to provide additional residential units to add to the rental stock of Strathroy, the existing 44 parking spaces are the maximum that can be achieved on site. There have been, the agent has done several stops at the property to assess the parking situation. Local staff, myself, have also attended the site and do concur with the agent's analysis that the parking is actually underutilized as it currently stands today. So a parking ratio of 1 unit or one space per unit and 2 visitor spaces is actually appropriate and makes better use of an underutilized site. So I circulated the application as part of the requirements of the Planning Act. The Director of Building and Planning advised of no concerns with the application. It is noted that staff are not aware of or have received concerns from area residents or parking spilling out of the property onto the side streets. I did also receive 2 comments from area residents. They have been provided to the committee prior to the meeting. Primarily speaking to a concern of a parking request, a parking deficiency request on the property. My analysis of the 4 tests of minor variance really hinged on this scenario being, a demonstrated underutilization of the parking area as it currently stands, as well as the municipality is not aware of any parking concerns in this area. We have not received any bylaw enforcement complaints or concerns in regards to this apartment. It has been in existence for a number of years. We have a documented timeline of there being no parking complaints. So my analysis is that the application meets the 4 tests, and my recommendation this evening is for approval. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Erin. Do we have anything to add, Matt or Aaliyah? Okay.
Already on? Yep. Through the chair, my name is Aaliyah Richards. I'm a planner with Zelinka Priamo, and I'm here with my colleague Matt Campbell, representing the client and owner of the lands known municipally as 294 Salisbury Street. I would like to thank committee members for their consideration of this application, and I would like to thank staff for their continued work on this application as well as the recommendation for approval. I would hope committee would also endorse the recommendation for approval. With staff support and evidence of the underutilized parking supply, the proposed variance is considered reasonable, desirable, and represents good planning practice in our opinion. And I would like to thank again all members for being here and considering this application. And I'm open to answering any questions anyone may have. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to go to committee members for questions. Frank?
So I guess just to clarify, there's no fewer parking spaces on the property. We're just adding 2, or the owner is adding 2 units to the building, which will add, I guess, 2 more tenants and their vehicles. But we're not taking away any parking spots.
Can I weigh in?
Yes.
Hi, I'm a resident. I live at 294 Salisbury.
Can I have your name, please?
Oh, Jody Harris.
Thank you, Jody.
We do have lots of parking, but a lot of us have a 1 bedroom, but we have 2 vehicles. And unfortunately, there are a lot of people that park that have 2 vehicles that do not let the owners know. So in fact, that they have 2 vehicles, the owners only know that there's only 1 being used, but in fact, they're taking up other spots that really belong to other applicants or visitors. That's what we run into.
Do you pay for a parking spot?
We pay for a parking spot, we pay 2, but there are quite a few that have 2 vehicles, but are only paying for 1, therefore the building manager doesn't know about the other vehicles that are actually, so really if you think about it, they're not getting the full story here, They're not getting full picture because there are additional vehicles that they're not aware of.
Okay, you must have a lot of people that don't drive in the building.
Yeah,
There's a few.
there's a couple, there's older people.
Okay,
There's a few older people
Okay.
that don't drive and walk, stuff like that.
okay,
That's
thank you
a-
for your comments. Back to our committee for comments. Steve?
Well, I do recognize that they've been rebranding this apartment building as a seniors apartment building, and so you will have a number of people that don't drive. And probably as time goes on, less of them will be couples and more will be single people in a smaller apartment. However, the ratio is mighty slim in terms of having visitors. And we know that Salisbury's about to get a lot busier with not only construction traffic, but when the construction traffic's done, there'll be a lot of homes at the other end of Salisbury that'll be coming down that road. So I'm a little nervous about making the parking so slim. I would have been a lot happier if I know that 286 Salisbury was just for sale, or if it's still for sale, I'm not sure. That, purchasing that property would have been an option, or and then even slicing off a piece of the backyard would have increased the parking. It's an odd shaped parking lot, I get that, and it's hard to use it properly as a parking lot because there's a lot of dead space in it. But I'm a little nervous about taking it that slim.
I had a question to the owners, if I might. I was by the property the other day as well, and there's some trees in the front. Couldn't you remove some of that and create more parking? Is that not possible?
Sure. It's Matt Campbell here. You're right, there are some great looking trees in the front. It's a bit of an odd parking configuration with the circle at the front. Presumably, yes, that could be removed. I believe there's a piece of infrastructure that's right there. There's a pipe and catch basin in that area. That would have to be investigated to see what could be done with that. It's probably possible. I don't think that's what the owner really wants to do right now. They want to make more efficient use of the space that's already there. Just to reiterate to Jody's comment earlier, all the parking spaces there are numbered. I think the other gentleman there mentioned that it's parking is paid for on an individual basis. So that's something residents would know. So we're certainly not concerned about the operation of it being on site. If there's concerns about extra vehicles coming onto the site, that's more of an internal management issue. And if there's anything that comes out of that, well, that's a bylaw enforcement issue that the municipality can let the building manager know. We can take action on that. Hopefully that answers the question.
Yeah, okay, thank you. Any other comments, questions from our committee members? No, seeing none, then I'm Steve.
Maybe if I can put the planner on the spot through the chair. Do we know what's going to happen with Salisbury Street in the long term? So I know it's not on the immediate horizon to be rebuilt, but at some point it will have to be rebuilt. Do we have any idea if we'll be adding a parking lane or not on that? And it's okay to say no if you have.
Wow. I don't know. We're not in the point of having even designs done for Salisbury. But I do know that, yes, it's not even on the horizon in terms of design, so no, I don't know.
So I guess I'll just add, at the moment they're marketing to seniors, but that could change. And then maybe we have a problem on our hands that the residents at, particularly 314, 310, 306, and 286 got to deal with. And it's a narrow street as it is right now, so.
Any, a comment in the back? Yep.
I'm sorry, but it's not geared to seniors anymore. There's a lot of children in the building. There's multiple families with multiple children.
Small kids, so they've never, it's not geared to seniors.
There's a lot of, young people that don't drive either. I don't think they can afford to drive a car anymore, so. But there are multiple families with young kids.
Yeah, kids just moved in.
Yeah. At least one, two.
Okay, and those folks would have
At
cars.
least 4 to 5
Yeah.
with families.
Frank,
I'll make the motion that we accept the recommendation and approve the minor variance in this situation.
do we have a supporter for that? Mike? All in favor? Any against? Okay,
You have to vote no.
so we do have a tie?
You haven't voted.
Correct, I have not, but we have a tie at this point. And I'm going to vote in favor. It passes.
From today, the 20-day appeal period will begin. During this time, either the applicant or prescribed public body can appeal the decision made by the committee by making an application to the Ontario Land Tribunal. If no appeal has been made following the 20 days, the minor variance declaration will be issued.
Okay, thank you. Then we are moving on to number 5.5. And our committee members have seen this last month. It is the recommendations for conditions of approval for the consent of B3 2024 and minor variance A5 2024 for 245 2nd Street, Strathroy. And I see Joanne's in the audience. How are you?
He's here too.
Oh, there you
He's
go.
just little. He's here.
Nice to see you.
She got signed.
Erin, can we go to your report?
Certainly, Chair. So the final item before committee, again, you will be very familiar with this site. We just dealt with this at the April Committee of Adjustment meeting. So I did put together, based on committee's direction, I put together a list of recommended conditions. So there's just a couple of things that were, not necessarily standard sort of severance application conditions. And it's just kind of due to the unique sort of situation of the property. So I took a look at access to the site. I took a look at the existing agricultural use and the livestock use that is in proximity to the residential lot, as well as the shared hydro connection as well. And I did also sort of analyze the future development zone as it stands today. I also circulated for comments. The comments primarily came from the first iteration. Ooh, I did not include a county road condition in the list. I'm so sorry. Shouldn't be doing this on the fly. So that came out of the first circulation for the original application. The county engineer advised that the owner would be required to dedicate lands up to 15 meters from the center line of 2nd Street across both the severed and retained, and that's for the purposes of road widening in the future. I did not capture that condition in my list, so I do request for that to be included. The Middlesex County Safety and Standards Officer advised that the farm parcels should be assigned a new municipal 911 address, as well as St. Clair Region Conservation Authority provided comment. They did recognize that there's regulated area, but they do not have any concerns with the proposed severance. So my conditions that came out of my report and my analysis are standard in terms of the certificate of consent within 2 years, any outstanding property taxes be paid in full. Number 3, that a draft reference plan be prepared by an Ontario land surveyor. Number 4, that one copy of the reference plan, once finalized, be provided to the municipality. Number 5, that the driveway between the severed and retained lands be removed and a new access to the retained agricultural structures be provided. So what that would look like is just basically, I didn't share my screen here. A separation of this, you know, it's basically all just connected at this location. So just, you know, some grass or some sort of separation between the two lots. The property does have an existing access off of 2nd Street at this location, which would be utilized for the access to the structures going forward. That the livestock be removed and the agricultural buildings be decommissioned for livestock use. That is in accordance with MDS, which does not typically apply within settlement areas. However, we are looking at it as it is a not necessarily a compatible use with a residential lot at this location. If the landowners were to sell the house, you now have a livestock operation in quite close proximity to this house. So what goes along with that is also the decommissioning of the manure pit that is located just north of this picture, just up at this location. Also that number 8, the owner established an easement over the hydro service for the severed lands to the retained lands. And that is, there is a hydro pole that is located right kind of where this truck is, I believe. And it services both the house and the agricultural buildings. So if either of the lots were to be severed, we do have sort of a potential conflict if that hydro line was to be need some maintenance or whatever. We always require there to be an easement in that sort of situation of a shared line. Number 9, based on the committee's direction and discussion regarding compatibility between a future industrial use and the residential lot, a landscape planting strip be installed along the eastern and northern lot lines of the severed lot. I did, think about the berm and the noise fence and other sort of mitigation options, but I don't want to, I don't want to recommend those because I don't want the future industrial or whatever use is coming in, I don't want them to not be required to provide their own mitigation. Any sort of proposal that we would see from a site plan perspective would always have a noise study if it's in proximity to these types of sensitive uses. And if there is already a berm in place, I would not want that to negate them from their own mitigation requirements. Number 10, that confirmation is received that the existing municipal water and sanitary connections are wholly contained on the severed lot, and that's just ensuring that they do not cross the new property lines. Number 11, again, utility services for the same reason. Number 12, that the owner apply for and receive approval for the Planning Act application to address lot area and lot depth requirements on the retained lands. That is the minor variance application that is also going along with this. It's just ensuring that that also gets approved. And then there's also the solicitor requirements that are standard to our consents. Did I miss any? No. So with the addition of the county road widening requirement, those are my recommendations this evening. Thank you.
Simon, do you have anything to add? Joanne does? Okay.
No, I think as we do this, if this gets passed, there's a few things we probably need more or less guidance on and clarification. And I did talk to Erin earlier this week about a few, not concerns, but we need to know what is expected from us, especially when we do the separation from the driveway. Right now, what we have along that yellow line from the road to the end of our grassway to the east is a fence, a farm fence. Would that suffice, or would we need to plant a row of trees, or what recommendations?
I'm gonna go back to Erin for that.
Thank you, Chair. So I did provide a comment about a landscape strip, planting strip. Typically that would be shrubs or trees or some sort of, sorry, this is doing something, that sort of visual barrier or buffer, but certainly committee discussion is recommended and suggested.
Okay. Questions from our committee members? Yes, Mike?
So the property owners are here this evening?
Yes, we are.
So through you, Chair, to them, these have been reviewed with you and you're primarily in favor of them or agreeable to them?
Yeah.
If I may follow up then with a comment, I don't have an issue with them other than number 5, the establishment. I understand why it's there, the separation of the driveway, but having seen this at council, I think ultimately those barns are going to be completely decommissioned, removed, and this is for new development. So it seems unnecessary at this point in time to establish a new break in the curbing to run another laneway up to the buildings. Once this land gets redeveloped, clearly that needs to occur. So I would like a change in that language where once the land is sold and changes hands, then, well, clearly there's a break because you're not going to have, they're not going to be able to drive to somebody else's property through their own property. That's my first one. The other one is the number 9 that the property owner asked about. I'm not seeing a need for number 9. Those type of situations are going to be addressed by plans of subdivision or whatever is going on up there at a later date. So putting trees there now may serve absolutely no purpose once that starts to get developed. So that's where I sit. 5, I don't think is needed at this point in time. Now 9, I don't think is needed at all.
Any other comments, Steve?
Yeah, so I'm going to differ with you, Mike, for a change.
Yeah.
No, normally I'm planning we're the same. But
Usually.
for number 9, I totally think that needs to be there because it needs time to grow and to thicken, and that's not going to be houses. That's going to be industrial. So you need to have some proper separation from the property, from the house to whatever ends up being there. My question though, if I'm understanding your presentation right, so all the cows got to be gone within 2 years? Is that, so you're planning on
We are retiring? prepared for that already.
Okay.
We're into retirement.
I guess the question I had is, what if circumstances change suddenly and you?
They won't.
Okay. All right.
They won't.
I just wanted to make sure that you were protected in the case that you decided at the last minute to continue farming for a
No,
while.
we've done it long enough.
Okay.
Mike?
Just because I don't like disagreeing with my fellow member. So at number 9, I understand exactly what you're saying. I just come at it from 180 degrees that I don't think it's going to be heavy industrial there, probably out back. Some sort of commercial light industrial across the front is kind of what I'm envisioning, but other people will make those decisions at a later date. And it would be those new developers that would have to come in and do whatever mitigation likely council put in place at the time, which could be, there's many. I've seen different plans around, and I know the planner could think of a number of different ways that they would deal with that, but I still think that would be dealt with at a later point in time, which is why I say that we don't need it. But either way, I'm in favor of the overall recommendation.
Okay, any other comments or questions? Yes, Brian?
Thank you. Through you to planning, so what, the severed land then becomes, what will be its zoning?
Oh, boy.
Okay, I know the house obviously will become residential, but what are we calling the new lands created? Like, they won't be A anymore, or will they?
There's still future development, so that's what the zone is now.
Okay.
So the retained piece, we are addressing through the minor variance to acknowledge that the lot area and the lot frontage is being reduced. I missed another condition actually. What I included in my report was that I was of the opinion that a full rezoning was appropriate for the residential lot, because typically we have the future development zone in place to ensure that any development coming forward is dealt with in sort of like a holistic way. Now that we know this is going to be a residential lot moving forward, it really should be R1 or an appropriate residential zone.
Okay, that's,
So that, yes, that was part of my analysis. That was not reflected in the conditions as well.
okay, yeah, so then that would actually bring me to number 9, where I would more be in support of them just leaving a fence or whatever else, being that whatever's coming beside them might not want a berm or trees, or maybe the road actually comes in there as opposed to somewhere over here. So I do support the deputy mayor in kind of his thoughts, where maybe 5 and 9 are kind of turfed out, and this just becomes R1. And you know, obviously the separation will be the white fence that they have for the cows now.
Yes, back to Aaron.
Through the chair to Member Derbyshire. It's certainly, with the new access that is required, there is already a curb cut on the 2nd Street on the retained piece. It would not require the owners to install a new access themselves. I did suggest the separation of, my map did close, the separation of sort of the driveway between the two uses. And I know that the applicants absolutely intend to retain these properties, but if something was to change tomorrow, that is just part of my standard recommendation, is just that we do add that separation. Again, not having them actually required to put in a full new access off of 2nd Street.
Okay, it does sound that way. Like, I understand once the cows and stuff are gone, I'm sure they'll shove the gravel wherever and draw probably another fence out back. It just made it sound like you want them to put in access to keep doing the agriculture through the access side, whereas, you know, as long as they have 2 years to have the cows, then I think they should just keep using the same laneway as opposed to a secondary laneway until this is all said and done and we put the final fence across the back and kind of off we roll, you know. So that entrance or whatever it is that's off of 2nd Street that's already there should just suffice then as done and done. Okay.
Okay, any other comments? No. Okay, then I'm looking for an approval for this, a motion for, oh.
Jesse, we're just going to be a little bit more detailed with the conditions. There's been a lot of back and forth, so maybe someone can bring forward a motion as amended with the addition of the dedication up to 15 meters, that a 911 number be assigned for the land severed, and that the retained residential lands be appropriately rezoned. And then I think number 9 and number 5 were in question. So perhaps a motion forward to add those 3 and make a comment about the other 2.
Okay, go to Mike.
I'll make a motion that we approve it with the conditions excluding 5 and 9, and adding 3 new conditions that you just mentioned. And obviously you already have the wording for that.
Yeah.
So are we clear? And then I'm looking for someone to make a motion to approve that.
Well, seconded, right?
Second.
Mike's made it as the motion, correct?
Yeah.
Seconder is right. Frank, supported? All in favor? Good, that passes. Thank you. Okay, number 6, any inquiries by,
Sorry, just one more question, Jesse. There was a minor variance tied to that, was there not?
Yes.
That we need to address?
oh yeah.
Okay, so let's do a motion for that as well, please.
Okay, so then I am also looking for the recommendation of the approval of the minor variance. Frank, supported by Dale, all in favor? Good, that passes. We got them both.
Shortly following this meeting, a notice of decision will be issued, at which point the 20-day appeal period will begin. During this time, either the applicant or prescribed public body can appeal the decision made by the committee by making an application to the Ontario Land Tribunal. If no appeal has been made following the 20 days, a consent and minor variance declarations will be issued. Thank you.
Okay, now we can move on to number 6, any inquiries by members? Frank?
Just a question, I should have asked it with, I guess 5.3, the secondary suite in that Melbourne property, but nothing to do with that one. Those secondary suites, do they, once all of that stuff is approved, is it permanent to that, or is it like some things where when the property gets sold, it reverts back to the way it was? So I expect it stays forever, but I just wasn't sure on that, so whoever.
Back to Aaron, yes.
Through the chair, it is a permanent unit. It is permitted under the zoning. So if the next person coming forward does not want a secondary suite, they can remove it or they can continue it. But it is intended to be a permanent unit. We do have temporary structures. We have garden suites and agricultural properties and things of that nature, but these are intended to be permanent.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions, Mike?
I keep meaning to ask this one, so I'll ask it now, and I think it's through you to our director. Why is Eva acting? Is she replacing somebody, or can we make her permanent, or should we make her permanent? Because she does such a good job, she really isn't acting.
That's a good question, actually. So, funny thing is, I'm also acting, because technically, currently, the Secretary-Treasurer is the clerk of the municipality. That's just a function of the Planning Act. And so there is an opportunity that we can bring a bylaw back delegating the authority, which I think we're on the right track to do, at which point it would be permanently assigned to a staff member, i.e. Eva. Yes.
Perfect. Okay, thank you for that. Any other inquiries? Seeing none, schedule of meetings. The next one is Thursday, June 6th, 5:30. I am not in attendance. Frank, I hope you can cheer that one.
I'll be here.
Okay. Okay, then I'm looking for an adjournment by Steve, Kumar, all in favor, and we're adjourned. Thank you.
Yeah.